Let's talk about hearing protection and why you need to have a Navy flight deck helmet like these. You might think we wear these flight deck helmets to be stylish, and you'd be right, but there's even more important reasons that you should have one of these. Shop tools are loud. They make a lot of noise, and noise is bad for your ears. But you know what environment is even noisier than a wood shop? Aircraft carrier flight decks. They have jets and helicopters and stuff like that, and it's really, really loud up there during flight operations. That makes hearing protection a very high priority for the crew. It's a priority for us too. That's why we wear Navy flight deck helmets here in the shop, also known as cranials by those in the flight deck business. They give us maximum hearing protection, and the armored parts help us avoid knocks to the head, which we're kind of prone to around here. But they also make us cool, and that's important. Your hearing can be damaged by loud noises a lot easier than you might think. Of course, we're all aware inside of an enclosed space like this shop, things like belt sanders, table saws, routers, and so forth can be bad, and that actually hurts sometimes when you use them. But you can also damage your hearing through the use of smaller tools, like these hand sanders or even drills. The damage happens over time, so it's gradual. You may not notice it, but it's there. So what you need to do is protect your hearing whenever you use a power tool or anything that generates sound. Because when you get old like me, your hearing is going to be less than what it was. Even though you don't notice it, it's happening. Trust me, it happens. Sound is measured in decibels, and any noise over 85 decibels can damage your hearing. This chart shows decibel levels for various tools most of us have. Look at some of these ratings. Look at the chainsaw, obviously is very loud, but these other types of tools that are very common that we all have, they can hurt your hearing. And if you work in your wood shop very often, especially if it's an enclosed space, it compounds the damage. And over time, as I said before, this can be a real problem. I suffered some hearing loss due to ear infections at an early age and have had tinnitus as long as I can remember. Tinnitus is where you have a constant tone coming through your ears, even though there may not be any sound around you. It can drive some people crazy. It's been with me my entire life, at least as far back as I can remember. This is what I hear all day, every day, even right now, even with this on. This is one of the things that can happen. Not only can you lose your hearing, but you can get things like tinnitus, which decrease your enjoyment of life because you always have this tone going. I highly recommend that if you haven't experienced hearing loss, or if you don't have tinnitus, or even if you already do, protect the hearing that you have. Don't opt in to something like this because it's not fun and you don't want it. Why should you? Plus, if you could put something on like this, that's all it takes to help keep your hearing safe. I've tried to protect my hearing ever since. I used to work in IT. I traveled a lot and I wore earplugs on every flight. People looked at me weird, but I gotta tell you, putting earplugs in with somebody sitting there looking at you is a great way to keep your seatmates from pestering you on a 5-hour cross-country flight. I'm not unfriendly, I just want to sleep. If you try earplugs on a flight, you'll be amazed when you get off the flight at the end, when you pull those earplugs out, how loud the plane was. Not just the people talking, but just the noise, the air going by and everything else. You'll be less fatigued and your ears will feel a lot better. And over time, again, these results are cumulative. Over time, if you opt out of noise situations by putting in earplugs and not dealing with the noise, letting the earplugs take it, your hearing will be protected. I've worn earplugs to concerts for years. It doesn't really make a difference. Modern concerts are so loud, you put the earplugs in, after 2 minutes, you're totally acclimated and you're gonna cut the decibels significantly. And when you come out of the concert, your ears aren't ringing, you can go out to dinner and talk to people normally. Don't apologize for protecting your hearing, not just in the shop, be weird. Although you probably shouldn't wear things like this out in public because people would, think you're weird. Okay, that covers protecting your hearing. So why do we have these Navy flight deck helmets? Why didn't we use some other kind of headset? Well, I have a Navy family. I come from a long Navy heritage. My grandfather was a battleship sailor. and later crewed PPY patrol aircraft. They actually attacked a submarine in the Gulf of Mexico during World War II that turned out to be a whale, but they were on duty. My father flew A-1 Sky Raiders like these. That's him aboard the Enterprise. And later he flew the A-7 Corsair off of USS Constellation. This is his squadron launching in 1967. This actually might be him flying, taking off on a combat mission back in the 60s. This is my dad's flight deck helmet from back in the 60s when he was aboard Constellation. And that flight deck helmet still fits him over 50 years later. I didn't go into the Navy. I went into IT, did a lot of travel and that sort of thing, but I never served. And a lot of you see this stuff and thank me for my service. And I appreciate that because growing up Navy, I understand all the effort that goes into people who actually do serve. So when you say thank you for your service, I just think about my father and grandfather and others in my family who have served, because I say the same thing to them. So keep saying it, it means a lot. But that's where these flight deck helmets come from. That's our history. But I grew up in that Navy life and traveled all over the world as a kid. And that's why you see all this stuff in here. It makes me happy because it reminds me of places I've gone, people I've known, things that I've seen. Let's talk about how these helmets break down. This is the original helmet that I had. This is the 1967 Attack Squadron 27 helmet that my dad used when he was aboard Constellation back in the late 60s. He was a pilot, but the pilots would wear these when they were on the flight deck. So it wasn't armored, it was just what they used when they operated the landing signal officer position at the rear of the ship and so forth. I've used this for years. I've updated the pads in here because the 1960s ones wore out sometime in the 80s, but this has been great. But we want to preserve this because it's a piece of our history, so we still use it out here, but we use it less often. Okay. This is Hannah's. It's on an old Navy fighter squadron, and it's got the original parts in it. The foam inside the bells is a sound reducing foam, and it goes in there, and it has the original parts, and it's just like this green one, except for it has these tabs that hold these armor pieces on. But this is for an operational squadron. Hannah wants to put stickers on this, but we've had trouble getting this really well applied reflective tape off. It has proven very resilient, so it's a future project. Probably heat this up or something and pull this off, because this would be a great place to put some stickers. But it's your basic flight deck helmet, and mine is actually a green helmet. My armor is green, but I wanted red, and I didn't want to go buy the parts, so I just put red tape on it. And this is also from a fighter squadron. I think this is VF-41. Mine has goggles attached to it. And it's the same thing, and I've upgraded the earpieces here. There was no foam in mine, and so I upgraded the earpiece to have modern components. But otherwise, it's a really great helmet, and it has kept me from knocking my head around many times. We really like these. So those are the 3 flight deck helmets that we have in our shop. They do the job very well, and they're fun to wear. So when you see us wearing our hats, and that's what we call them, we're celebrating our Navy heritage, we're protecting our hearing because that's not something we can replace, and we're also protecting our noggins from head injuries because of the armor, which is honestly a really good feature of these things. Please protect your hearing. Be careful of what you do in the shop. It's not just keeping your fingers on your hands and protecting yourself from cuts and stuff dropping on you. Your ears are probably the most fragile thing you have in the shop. Take care of them because you can't replace them, at least not easily. The bionic man is not a real thing. Let's see, flight deck helmets, hearing protection, Navy stuff, that's it. A big thank you to our patrons. You make it possible for us to use all these tools to make cool stuff. We love you, appreciate your help. New video every week and an extra one every now and then whenever we can put it together. Subscribe and ring that bell so you'll always know when we get a new video up. Well, that's it. See you next time.